Welcome to Entrepreneur State of Mind. I'm your host, Dr. Dale Caldwell, and we have someone who is just an extraordinary human being and a good friend, and Ben Morton. Ben, welcome to Entrepreneur State of Mind.
Thank you, Dale. Definitely a pleasure to be here with you, my friend.
And I promise the audience that Ben's an extraordinary and humble guy, but he's done so much, and so I want to begin with the background, just to really, and Ben, one of the reasons I do that is that we have young people and others who watch our show and see these role models and say, hey, I'd love to be like them, and life isn't always a straight line. And so where'd you grow up, and how did you get into playing pro sports?
Well, let me first parlay from what you just said. Life is often not a straight line.
Yes.
My line has been so crooked, you need a roadmap to kind of stay with me. But for me, as you may recall, I'm from Detroit, Michigan, born and raised. Played high school basketball there, high school all-state, all-Catholic, did very well, recruited by over hundreds of Division I schools, so I was blessed. Wow. At 6'8", a basketball physique, able to run and jump and play basketball. So that was my ability, being one of 9 children. Growing up in the rough parts of Detroit, that was my way out, if you would.
Yeah.
So I received several basketball scholarships. Ultimately, even at my high school, they gave me a scholarship to play at a Catholic high school instead of the neighborhood public school, because they wanted me to have some good education behind me with visibility for going on to college. So I ultimately went to the University of Central Florida, where I received a full athletic basketball scholarship. That's down in Orlando. UCF, I made honorable mention All-American. Nice. All conference, did very well there. Had some injuries, so I was like one of the second leading scorers, actually behind Vernon Maxwell at University of Florida. He went on to play professionally with the Houston Rockets.
Right.
But injuries sort of set me back, and so I didn't get drafted. So what my agent said, we'll do is let's go overseas. So I went overseas. I played in the European League. Right. over in Germany. We were all over the Europe, Germany, Hungary, Yugoslavia. And so, but the body didn't want to cooperate, unfortunately. So at a young 22 years old, give or take 22, 23, I had to then pretty much hang up the sneakers. And you can imagine that young, you kind of figuring out, what do you do from now? Right. You have this dream and goal of playing in the NBA. That was, coming back home as a free agent. That didn't go well. So you're trying to get through the depression and the challenges of what do I do with my life? Right. And so for me, I had good coaches. I had, my parents. I had people like you that were mentoring me, like people like me when I'm trying to kind of play it forward. Yep. And so they encouraged me to because I had graduated with my degree in political science, to pursue other areas. Well, I was a fan of the law, but I never was under the understanding that
they knew you were smart. They knew you were smart, and they knew, and I love talking to extraordinary people because they gloss over things. So you were McDonald's All-American. So explain. Yes. I love how they just skip over these things. So McDonald's All-American is that's for the best high school players in the country. Talk to me about that before we move on to your post-basketball career.
Yes, in fact, what we were able to do, reaching the All-State, McDonald's All-Americans, all those nominations, what we were able to do is we broke up into different states. So the Michigan All-Stars, which I was a part of, the McDonald's guys, we used to play the Indiana All-Stars, Illinois, Ohio. So it was such an exposure. We went to several different camps. We was exposed. Even some NBA scouts was actually, even though it was at the high school level,
right, exactly,
they were watching us and they're looking at it. So you traveled the world. You was able to understand that there is more to life, than just, what you're doing in your neighborhood in Detroit, Michigan. Right. So it allowed you to kind of grow emotionally and mentally, see the competition, meeting young Black men from all over different states. And it just allowed you to grow in a way with the right coaches and mentors behind you, just way beyond basketball. Because what you later learn is that just a handful of you will make the NBA. And that fact, some guys that don't even make the McDonald's All-American, they'll grow and mature later, and they'll get to the NBA, and you don't. So many of the stars have to be aligned, health, the right coaches, the right team,
exactly,
the right collaboration, the right mixture.
But Ben, also talk about, but also talk about. See, and this is where part of the challenge is people don't know what it's like growing up in a poor, urban community. I mean, they're folks, they're young people in New York City who've never been on an elevator, who've never been out of the city. And so sports helps you, because if you didn't play sports, just talk about what, the lack of exposure that you would have had. And so I just love your exposure first nationally and then internationally. But say a little bit about growing up in the neighborhood as a young person, because people don't understand that.
It's Adele, I can barely find the words. And being a lawyer, we live by words.
Right.
I can barely find the words in the English language that can explain the impact and the effect that playing sports, having that exposure, how it changed my life.
Yes.
Basketball will always be my roots, but from those roots, I met extraordinary people. I met great guys, coaches, just getting out of the neighborhood. And of course, the neighborhood, you gotta get through the drugs, you gotta get through the gangbangers, you gotta get through those urban challenges that we as Black men have, as I'm sure you're very well of, because you've written on that and spoke on that.
Yeah.
So just the trauma of growing up and going through those things, seeing a lot of your dear friends die at a young age.
Right.
Coming out of Detroit, the statistics for me was a Black man would probably die at the hands of another Black man before the age of 25.
Wow.
We had a 4% chance of leaving the area, just going on to trade school, let alone college or law school. I've been to several funerals, of a lot of my friends, and I don't want to get emotional, but I've been to funerals.
Right.
A lot of my friends never made it, even past 18, 19, 20, and the ones that did, a lot of them are in state prison. So I've seen it all. I just say, but for the grace of God, there go I.
There you go. Exactly.
So, I was blessed and humble, which is why I remain so humble, because it was just such a slim chance and an opportunity. And then to parlay that to something national, again, playing out in California, playing with the guys in Florida, in New York, all-stars everywhere, and just the exposure. And then to be able to get on an airplane and a private jet and to be flown to all these universities that's offering you scholarships, and then to parlay that into playing overseas and being in different places in Germany, learning German, eating German food, going to Hungary, Yugoslavia. You just begin to understand that life, even through sports, is so much bigger than you. Yep. And you begin to understand some of your duties and obligations to others beyond sports.
But Ben, let me.
I can take the whole hour on that alone.
Well, yeah, I know, but the reason I wanted to lay that context is that your humility and your wanting to give back, your passion for giving back. Not everybody wanted to do that. Not everybody who makes it out of, I grew up in Harlem and Roxbury, those communities, and not everybody who makes it wants to give back. And so I just say all that to say my hat's off to you for your commitment. So, all right, so let's take it back to you went through basketball, you had injuries, but sometimes the negative becomes a positive, that you were able to, people said, hey man, this guy's really smart. You should do something else. So tell me the path to law school after pro basketball.
Wow, that's when I say the road gets really, really jagged.
Yeah.
Because I was blessed to, what I like to say, turn the less obstacles into opportunities. In basketball, career ending at such a young age was definitely an obstacle. Now, you're playing basketball, you're on the road, you're struggling to do homework while you're on the plane, and you're playing games, and you're back late for class. So you're walking around with, C's and B's.
Right.
You're doing okay. I was able to get the degree, but I didn't have what you consider law school grades, law school GPAs. In the 3.7s, 3.6s, 3.5s. I was never in the threes.
Right.
Let's just put it that way. I stayed in the mid twos.
Right.
Which just doesn't qualify you for law school. Then you have to take the LSAT. I'm like, what is this? Is it Chinese?
Right.
Is it French? As I'm reading, preparing for the LSAT. I'm
right.
Like, what is this? Am I supposed to really pass? So I didn't do well on the LSAT, even for African Americans. Mm-hmm. I applied to 9 law schools. No, I got 8 no's.
Wow.
Even a couple of HBCUs, Howard's.
Wow.
It was just like, no, you just don't qualify.
Right.
But again, turning those obstacles into opportunities, and just being steadfast. And my mom and dad, may they rest in peace, they raised me very well. They never raised me to quit and give up. Mm-hmm. And so I just have to give the people that God had put in my life that played such a major role when I was a little knucklehead running around the streets of Detroit, that helped lay that foundation. So I applied to 9 law schools. I got 8 no's and I got 1 maybe. So they required that I come up to the law school. They said, you just don't write well enough. I'm like, but I got a degree in political science. I got a bachelor's. What do you mean I can't write?
Right.
So you just don't write well. I said, well, if you come up here to Toro Law Center out in Long Island, New York, and you start in July, August, and you take these summer courses, if you pass these summer courses, contingent upon that, we'll let you in. So they didn't have to tell me twice. I packed up I got back from Europe, got over that depression, packed up, drove up from Orlando, Florida to Long Island, New York. Never been to New York, more exposure.
Right.
You know, you see New York City, awesome place to be.
Right.
Drive out to Long Island, take the courses, focus down. I was able to pass those summer courses, improve my writing.
Wonderful.
They told me, we don't think you're going to make it in law school, but we need, affirmative action was definitely a factor. I thank God for that.
Right.
They said we need our numbers up for African Americans, especially male. We're going to let you in, and they're going to roll the dice. And I told them, you roll the dice with me, that's a pretty good bet.
Wow.
I got in, Dale, and I did it. I pulled it off in 5 years, though. That's another story.
Yep.
I made it in.
So let's stop there because one, that's such a powerful story that people don't realize is that there are a lot of smart people just need a chance. Just give them a chance, and they didn't have the opportunities that others had, and so you turn that chance into making a big difference. So when anybody talks about affirmative action, talks about special programs, that is, and I appreciate you being honest about that, Ben, because that was the best investment society could have made in people like you. And so you went through, you graduated. What was next right after law school?
Well, before I graduated, let me just leave this footnote. I had to go part-time at night, work as a paralegal with several firms out in New York City while the school was in Long Island. So it was Monday through Thursday, like 6:30 to 9:30, 10:30 for 5 years. It took me 5 years to get a 3-year law degree. And of course, I struggled with that. Had some really good professors, so I was able to finish at the bottom of my class. When I finished, I got the same degree that the kids at the top of the class got.
Nice.
Many of them had concerns that I had taken the place of another student academically more qualified. So that was a bit of a distraction, but I didn't let that preclude me from getting it. So I got the degree, and oh boy, I thought that was a battle. There's this crazy thing called the bar exam, and it is certainly a bar.
So we're going to take a commercial break now, and then we're going to get to that. But this is really just a very, very powerful story, and then we'll get to, I want to get to all the incredible things that you are doing now. So again, this is Entrepreneur State of Mind. We will be right back after the commercial break.
Shelter dogs aren't broken. They've simply experienced more life. If they were human, we would call them wise. They would be the ones with tales to tell and stories to write, the ones dealt a bad hand who responded with courage. Do not pity a shelter dog. Adopt one.
Say we've got grit, and we'll take it as a compliment. Because it's our uncommon drive, our spark within, that brings us together and sets us apart. We are temple made. And when others take shortcuts, when others take breaks, when others take the easy way, we take charge.
Add us.
Welcome back to Entrepreneur State of Mind. We have Ben Morton, a good friend of mine, who just explained his incredible story of getting through law school, admitting that he struggled through law school. So you're out of law school. Talk to me about what that path, what did you have to do from there, and then what are you doing now?
Well, I was never a great test taker, as many of us probably are not. So I ran into this bar, this crazy thing called the bar exam, where everybody has to take it. There's no set asides for African Americans that grew up and dealt with some urban trauma. We had to take the same exam.
Right.
So most of my friends were taking New York and New Jersey because the states are combined. So they worked out a 3-day schedule where you can take both.
Right.
And some was taking like New York and Connecticut. So I tried to actually do that, which was a mistake, but I was trying to maximize my opportunities. So I'm practicing, I'm studying for the bar exam. I don't have the resources to take the bar exam prep courses, so I'm just taking books off the shelves, taking practice exams. So, and in the course of doing that, I had applied for the U.S. Air Force because I had my degree.
Right.
So, my law degree. So the Air Force said, boom, you don't really qualify, but that's another footnote that we can talk about. But the Air Force gave me an opportunity because I met with them in Washington, D.C., and I persuaded this colonel to give me a chance. We spent a great deal talking about Michael Jordan at that time.
Right,
He
right.
left, I came out of retirement. But I was able to parlay that conversation into getting to the Air Force. But the Air Force, you were required to pass the bar exam. So getting to your question. So I'm studying for the bar exam. It's offered twice a year, February and March. So I take February, I fail. I take July, I fail.
Wow.
I'm getting discouraged. I'm like, wow, I'm gonna have a law degree and never pass this thing. Then I take it again in February, so that's a year and a half.
Right.
I fail again. And the Air Force says, listen, Morton, we can't hold your slot anymore. It's been 2 years. So you can imagine the fear and the depression and
absolutely.
the anxiety building up because I'm about to lose this great opportunity. So I had to shut down everything right there in Newark. I moved into the YMCA. I put duct tape over the vents to keep out the roaches and the rats.
Wow.
And I was across the street in Rutgers, or I was across the street in Seton Hall every day, 9 to 5, full-time job. That's all I did on the fourth try. And I was blessed to walk out of the YMCA and get notified that I had passed the New Jersey bar exam.
Nice.
One of the top scores. I scored well enough where my MBE, which is a multiple bar exam score, it allowed me to apply for my license in D.C. without having to take the D.C. exam.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Then I went on because I was able to master the exam. I took it past Maryland. I passed Maryland.
Nice.
I took it past Florida. I passed Florida. So one of the things I like to offer going forward is helping coach kids through law school and even the struggling with the bar exam, because I have been blessed with a way. It's a system there, like everything else.
Wow. Wow.
And I was able to come up with a system to help me pass. And the Air Force was like, come on in, my friend. You got it. I became a military lawyer, JAG, with the U.S. Air Force.
Well, that is just, I mean, that's just an incredible story. And obviously the sports training helped you through that. And again, I appreciate you being open and honest. And that's so many folks. It's not about intelligence, it's about preparation. A lot of people have money just to pay for a prep course. You didn't have that money and you had to buckle down. So you went through the military, you had a successful legal practice. And we could spend a whole section on your incredible legal practice, but then you decided to do something else. So tell me, I want to make sure we talk about some of the incredible things you're working on now. Talk to me about pivoting and what you're doing now.
Yeah, believe it or not, as a trial lawyer, I was a pretty good criminal defense lawyer. I was a federal prosecutor, special assistant U.S. attorney with the Air Force. I parlayed that into the Morton Law Group, and I wanted to hang my shingle, be an entrepreneur, and practice law my way. And my dream was to bring a high level of legal representation to a demographic of people that look like me.
Right.
That historically had to go with legal aid or public defender. So I was able to put together a system of litigation, a trial system where I could handle cases where most lawyers would charge, 6 figures for. I could do it for low 5 figures and still be successful. So I was not prepping for what I'm doing now,
right? But
it looks like that some things were happening behind the scenes,
right?
So I eventually closed the practice up in Jersey, moved back to Maryland. To being a dad, you can relate to this. Our daughters are about the same age. To get back to my daughter, she was 16. She had a boyfriend. She needed dad closer.
Right.
So I had to get up that I-95 corridor commute, relocated back there, do some consulting work as I was being more of a dad with her, and so the opportunity came about where some friends of mine in Detroit heard, oh my God, Big Ben is a lawyer. What? Not that knucklehead. And he has a law firm. You got to be kidding me. Right. So they started reaching out to me on Facebook. You know how that social media
yes,
stuff. Those old heads be like, okay, whatever. At the end of the day, a buddy of mine invited me. He said I should write a book. So we talked about writing a book. And I always wanted to write a book called From Court to Court, the basketball court to a court of law.
Right.
So he was encouraging that. Nobody's going to read my book. I'm going to put $1 million aside one day. I'm going to get a laptop and I'm going to go write the book. Right. He said, dude, that's never going to happen. And people need to hear what you're doing and what you've done.
Right.
So he convinced me. So we were chopping it up. We're working on potentially an outline for this book. And then he tells me about this super guy who he just got a meeting, Dr. Reuben West. and he was taking a delegate of folks over to Kenya, Africa.
Okay.
And he wanted speakers, and he just wanted to change Africa and give back. And I'm like, dude, I'm so not in that class. You're kidding me, right? First of all, who's going to listen to what I say? And second of all, I'm not a public speaker. He said, you have the foundation. Come over. So I go over to Africa, Kenya. I got back about maybe 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Over there, I was able to give 2 speeches, one of which I didn't anticipate, which was for recovering drug addicts.
Right.
They treat them very badly. That was impromptu. I was able to do that, and that just parlayed into so many opportunities, prison ministries and everything.
Interesting.
And then I was able to give the presentation that I was brought over to give, which was something that I came up with, what I was contemplating in the book, is the power of the positive pivot.
Right.
If you know anything about basketball, you know when you make that pivot on the low block, you're unstoppable.
Right.
And that puts you in a much better position to score. Obviously, the closer to the basket, the more powerful the pivot, the higher percentage you have of scoring, like anything in life. So, so that was put in my spirit to come up with this power of the positive pivot. I had no idea, Dale, that my brain worked that way.
Yep.
But I was able to parlay that and say, listen, come over here to Africa, talk to people, come to Nairobi, share that power of the positive pivot.
Right.
And my boy was like, dude, that's a movement. This could touch so many people. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay, we'll see what happens. I'll go as a friend to support you. Dude, I go over there and it just blows up like wildfire. I'm talking about the pivot. I'm on the stage. I'm pivoting. I got my basketball, and I'm showing how that I'm basically training people how to master the ability of pivoting through life's most egregious challenges and decision making, and it can help you build professional development and personal development, deal with issues and problem solving.
And so Ben, so the pivot. So talk a little more. So the pivot is really kind of adjusting. You're facing a challenge, then you pivot for success, right? Is that? Say a little more for the audience about that, because I want to get and
use that ability to pivot to it. The P is to start out positive.
Right.
So everything that you want to do in life, you want to land with a positive attitude. That's the first and foremost. And you have to identify the issues, which is one thing that lawyers are trained to do. If you pivot positively, but you end up identifying the wrong issue,
right,
you're going in the wrong direction. So I teach people how to identify the issues before them and to do them in such a positive way that you can control that narrative and you can draft that issue and apply the issue in a way that's going to help you. But you can gain and grow, and you can also give back. If you can draft that issue and focus that issue with those 2 G's in mind, then you're okay.
Right.
You're going to be okay. The V is visualizing. You got to visualize yourself.
Okay.
Shooting the basket, going to court.
Right.
Speaking in front of a church.
Interesting.
Becoming a doctor. You got to just actually see it, visualize. Then the O is you got to own it. You have to own your failures, own failing the bar exam, own it not getting into school. There's other factors, obviously, being black, being poor, being this and that. Those are factors. You own those factors, but you allow those factors. You build on those factors and make those obstacles, as we said earlier, as opportunities. You don't use those factors to hold you back, and blaming others or those factors, you never get there. So and I think this is maybe one of the most challenging elements, is you got to own your life and take charge of it.
Right.
You write the script, you tell the story, you're the director, you're the actor, you're the lead. So once you own it, it becomes very personal. And then the T is finally triumphant. You have to enjoy, as you said, take the small victories, and the victory is not outcome determinative. It is in the journey. And so I was able to put these PIVOT together, speak on this, and now I've got several opportunities to come back to Kenya to speak. It's expanding. So I'm putting together some projects over there, some things I call the empowering experience, the international empowering experience that I'm putting together. I'm bringing speakers, I'm bringing delegates. They asked me to come over there to coach regularly. I'm working with Kenyatta University. I'm working with some of the government officials. It has taken, and I remember, I was over there once, about 2 weeks ago. And I haven't been able to sleep since I got back.
Wow.
The opportunities are unlimited, which is why I'm recruiting you.
But it's just, it's who you are. You're living, this interview is pivot. You're talking about every one of those elements here. You're owning, that's the thing, is that so often we don't want to own. That really sticks out. We don't want to own our failures. We want to pretend like everything was copacetic. And so I really appreciate that, and I'm really looking to partner with you on a lot of the things that you're talking about. And so Kenya, you're doing stuff there. What's the future? What's your longer term goal as you're building on this incredible opportunities?
Well, I'll have to be candid with you again because this just happened a week ago, and I'm like, okay, I'm scratching my head down. I'm still processing being back from Kenya.
Right.
And I'm processing the fertile, they've only been an independent nation since 1963 when they broke off from Great Britain. So
right.
The land is fertile. There's so much of a need and there's so much opportunity where I'm still taking notes. I'm processing it. As you know, I'm in Kansas now with my business partner. We're putting together opportunities and things. I see this as a way to teach to bridge the gap from Africa to Kenya, and a way to teach the Kenyans and the Africans as they work with me and work with the Americans in pivoting, as the country is in such a pivotal state.
Right.
I like to say they are in a positive posture to pivot. So
Perfect.
They're in a posture where with me coming in to do what I can and as humbly as I can is to make a difference.
Yes.
And to help them with their infrastructure, help them with their education, help them with just all types. We talk about connecting the churches. We're connecting businesses. I attended an first international business summit over there, where I'm connecting Kenya businesses in Kenya that don't even know about each other.
Wow.
But Kenya businesses across the Atlantic Ocean to work with American business, and American businesses are coming over there. I'm lining up teachers and speakers. Like I said, we're working with Kenyatta University. One young lady said, because I'm in the DC area, hey, we can hook up Bowie State with a program at Kenyatta University. So this is. I know I'm all over, but I'm telling you, it's just a lot there. I can't tell you specifically that I'm going to do this, and this, because
that's amazing.
I'm going to do it all.
Well, this is, again, and this is just the perfect time to really, have you on the show as you're starting. We're going to have you back as it grows. Unfortunately, Ben, we're at the end of time. This 30 minutes goes by so very, very quickly.
Yes,
but again, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I'm looking forward to doing a lot of things with you going forward. I want to thank our audience for watching Entrepreneur State of Mind, and we will see you all next week. Take care.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.